of you. My dear sisters and brothers and my dear friends, a warm welcome to all of you from your Pastor Yeti. Humility, the beauty of holiness. Humility in the teaching of Jesus. Learn of me, for I am meek and humble of heart. Whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your slave. We have seen humility in the life of Christ as he laid open his heart to us. Let us listen to his teaching. There we will hear how he speaks of humility and how he expects man and his disciples to be humble, as he was. Let us carefully study these passages to receive the full impression of how often and how earnestly he thought about humility. It may help us realize what he asks of us. Look at the beginning of his ministry in the Beatitudes, with which the Sermon on the Mount opens. Scripture reads, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of the heavens. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Matthew 5, verses 3 to 5 and 5. The very first words of his proclamation of the kingdom of heaven reveal the open gate through which we enter. The poor who have nothing in themselves, to them comes the kingdom. The meek who seek nothing in themselves will inherit the earth. The blessings of heaven and earth are for the lowly. For the heavenly and the earthly life, humility is the secret blessing. Learn of me, for I am meek and humble at heart. You shall find rest for your souls. Matthew 11:29. Jesus offers himself as teacher. He tells us what the Spirit is and what we can learn and receive from him. And we will find these things in him as teacher. Meekness and lowliness is what he offers us. We will find perfect rest for our souls. Humility will be our salvation. The disciples had been disputing who would be the greatest in the kingdom and had agreed to ask the Master. Look that up on Luke 9:46, and then Matthew 18, verse 3. He set a child in their midst and said, "Except you be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of the heavens." Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? The question is indeed a far-reaching one. What will be the primary differentiation feature in the heavenly kingdom? The answer was one that no one but Jesus would have given. The top honor of heaven, the true heavenly mindedness, the most precious of the virtues, is humility. He that is least among you all, the same shall be great. The sons of Zebedee asked Jesus for the honor to sit on his right and his left hand. The prestigious places in the kingdom. And Jesus said, It was not his to give, but the Father's, who would give it to those for whom it was prepared. They must not look or ask for it. Their thought must be of the cup and the baptism of humiliation. And then he added, and whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. Humility will be the one standard of glory in heaven. As Christ demonstrated in his life, so the lowliest is nearest to God. The authority in the church is promised to be the humblest. Speaking to the multitude and the disciples regarding the Pharisees and their love of the highest positions, Christ said once again, "But he that is great among you shall be your servant." Humiliation is the only ladder to honor in God's kingdom. On another occasion, in the house of a Pharisee, he spoke the parable of the guest who would be invited to a higher position at a table. You can search it out in Luke 14, verses 7 to 11. He added, "For whosoever exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted." The demand is inescapable. There is no other way. Submission alone will be exalted. After the parable of the Pharisees and the publican, Christ spoke again. "Anyone that exalts himself shall be humbled, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted." In our total relationship to God, everything is worthless and is not affected strongly by deep, true humility toward God and man. After washing the disciples' feet, Jesus said, "If I then, the Lord and the Master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet." Every thought either of obedience or conformity makes humility the first and most essential element of discipleship. At the Holy Supper table, the disciples still disputed who should be greatest, and Jesus said, "He that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he that is prince as he that doth serve." The path Jesus walked and opened up for us, the power in which he brought about salvation and saves us, it is because of his humility in this thing that makes me the servant of all. How little this is preached, how little it is practiced, how little the lack of it is felt or confessed. Sadly, few pursue some recognizable measures of likeness to Jesus in his humility. Few ever think of making it a specific object of continual desire or prayer. How little the world has seen it, even within the inner circle of the church. "Whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your slave." How exciting it would be if we could truly believe that Jesus means this for us. We all know what the character of a faithful servant or slave implies: devotion to the master's interests, thoughtful study and care to please him, and delight in his prosperity, honor, and happiness. There are servants on earth in whom these attributes have been seen, and to whom the name of servant has never been anything but a glory. To how many of us has it not been a realized joy in our Christian life to know that we have the ability to yield ourselves as servants as slaves to God. That we can find that His service is our highest liberty, the freedom from sin and self. Now is the time to learn another lesson. Jesus calls us to be servants of one another. As we accept this lesson heartily, our service will be a true blessing, a new and fuller freedom from sin and self. At first, it may appear difficult. This is only because of the pride that still considers itself something. If we learn that to be nothing before God is the glory of the creature, we will welcome with our whole heart the discipline we may have in serving even those who annoy or irritate us. When our own hearts is intent on this true satisfaction, we will study each word of Jesus on humility with new passion. No place will be too low, no stooping too deep, and no service too miserable or lengthy, if we simply have the opportunity to share and experience the fellowship with Him who spoke, "I am among you as He that serves." Brothers and sisters, here is the path to a higher life. Down, lower down. This was what Jesus repeatedly said to the disciples who were thinking of being great in the kingdom, and of sitting on His right hand and His left. Do not seek or ask for a position of honor. That is God's work. Your work is to submit and humble yourselves and take no place before God or man, but that of a servant. That is your work. Let it be your one purpose and prayer. God is faithful, just as water always seeks and fills the lowest place. For the moment God finds the creature humble and empty, His glory and power flowing to raise up and bless. To humble ourselves must be our single concern, that we will be exalted in God's concern. By His mighty power and in His great love, He will do it. Man, and I'm talking about humanity, sometimes speak as if humility and meekness would rob us of what is dignified, bold, and manlike. Oh, if only all would believe that it is godlike to humble oneself to become servant of all. This is the nobility of the kingdom of heaven and the royal spirit that the King of heaven displayed. This is the path to the gladness and glory of Christ's presence dwelling in us. Jesus, the meek and lonely one, calls us to learn from Him the path of God. Let us study the words we have been listening to until our hearts are filled with the thought, my one need is humility. Let us believe that what He shows, He gives, and what He is, He communicates. As the meek and lonely one, He will come in and dwell in the longing heart. The Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord deal kindly and graciously with you. The Lord bestow His favor upon you and grant you peace. Blessings to all of you, my dear ones. This is your Pastor Yeti. I love you guys. Bye.